This is it. This is all of it. It's wider than it is deeper. And they did that on purpose because they wanted to create sort of this sort of exaggerated sense of scale for what it was actually like here. And I've got a photo of what it actually looked like. This is, and that's Desmond Doss at the top. So that's how big it actually was. And you can see how much more narrow his...
that's behind, down there, is it?
It's right where that sign is over there. Yeah. So... So it's a very different size and scope than what, let's see, this really becomes, in a lot of ways, much like Hacksaw Ridge in that it's a battle that's going to grind out for many, many days. Literally, by the inability to get up top, the inability to hold it and whatnot is going to eventually lead to the Americans going and getting some ladders and also getting some nets from the U.S. Navy. And of course, you've seen Hacksaw Ridge. You realize those nets are going to be literally placed right here, okay? At one point, to sort of get a sense of like what they're up against with the Japanese, they're going to fire 6 phosphorus shells into some of these tunnels. And one of the amazing things that's going to happen is smoke's going to come out in about 24 different places all around. Of course, that, of course, brings us to Desmond Doss, right? And I'm sure everybody who's seen the movie knows the story of Desmond Doss. It's a great story. Of course, he is a medic. His story, actually, before he ever even gets here, he's actually already earned 2 Bronze Stars, one on Guam and one on Leyte. But the movie, of course, compresses all of that and sort of makes it to be where Okinawa is the place in which he sort of overcomes all of that and whatnot. But by the time he's gotten to Okinawa, he's already actually proven himself pretty seriously in combat. Before I read his Medal of Honor citation to you guys, I did want to just give you guys a little bit. The battle to capture Hacksaw Ridge is about 11 days. I mean, it's a pretty hellacious battle. It's going to run from April 26th through May 6th, okay? And losses, just like at Hacksaw Ridge, are going to be pretty horrific here. Let's put it in a little bit bigger perspective here. It takes 15 days to take Hacksaw Ridge and another 11 days to take Hacksaw Ridge. So you're looking at 26 days to cover the distance of 1 mile, right? And the casualties for the 10th Army for the month of April stand at about 20,000 casualties. Those assaults here. Of course, the main assaults are going to be here and at Needle Rock over on the other side where we're going to walk over and check it out. So again, it's that frontal assault, that brutal, having to overcome the Japanese, same type of stuff that you see on Hacksaw Ridge. You know, the Americans get up, they get up top, the Japanese then come out at night. I mean, it's a back and forth, literally battling for every yard, every foot, until eventually you grind them out. And of course, that's where sort of the blowtorch and the corkscrew strategy starts coming in. You see more and more of that. And that's going to play a much bigger deal, particularly tomorrow when we get down on the southern side, because more and more of the civilians are going to be in caves and structures down on the southern side. And that's where a lot of the civilian deaths are going to come from, because by the time the Americans get down to that southern part, it's not like they were up at Chimichurri Cave yesterday where they're like, hey, come on out. They associate caves with Japanese guys jumping out at them and so caves become, you bulldoze them shut, you flamethrower them, you throw satchel charges. And the difference being is while there aren't civilians here and while there aren't civilians there will be civilians on that southern battlefield.
So they learned from that about the caves, so when they came here, they realized they're going to have
Oh yeah. By the time they get through Hacksaw Ridge, they have a crystal clear understanding of the defense network that they're up against. Hacksaw Ridge was really the education.
A bit of a shock, yeah.
And as I noted on our first day, all of our intelligence came from aerial photographs.
Yeah.
And so not until you get, and of course aerial photographs compress everything to 2 dimensions, and not until you get here and you sort of see the topography, and it also doesn't do a really good job of showing caves and entrances and sort of that type of thing. Not until they get here do they really realize what they're up against. Kakuzu, of course, is the beginning of that education. Hacksaw is the continuation of it. And you're gonna see, depending on who you talk to from veterans of that time period, everyone they'll have a different, Cactus Ridge, Sugarloaf Hill, Half Moon Hill. I mean, everybody's got that cave, that mound, ridge that they identify with from their own personal experience. Of course, Hacksaw has become so legendary because of the Mel Gibson film. I did bring along with me, and I think it's worth reading, Desmond Doss's Medal of Honor citation here, which is really worth reading. Doss, of course, was with the 77th Infantry Division. He was awarded the Medal of Honor. The active date for his was May 29th through May 21st. And of course, he was awarded his rank at the White House on October 12th, 1945. Awarded his medal, it's not rank, sorry, on April 12th, 1945 by Harry S. Truman. Okay, and so here's his citation. Quote, "He was a company aide man when the 1st Battalion assaulted a jagged escarpment 400 feet high. As our troops gained the summit, a heavy concentration of artillery, mortar, and machine gun fire crashed into them, inflicting approximately 75 casualties and driving others back. PFC Doss refused to seek cover and remained in the fire-swept area with many stricken to safety. On May 5th, he unhesitatingly braved enemy shelling and small arms fire to assist an artillery officer. He applied bandages, moved his patient to a spot that offered protection from small arms fire, and while artillery and mortar shells fell close by, painstakingly administered plasma. Later that day, when an American was severely wounded by fire from a cave, PFC Doss crawled to him, where he had fallen 25 feet from the enemy position, rendered aid, and carried him 100 yards to safety while continually exposed to enemy fire. On May 21st, in a night attack on a high ground near Shuri, so this is not on Hacksaw, this is down towards Shuri where we're headed next, he remained in exposed territory while the rest of his company took cover, fearlessly risking the chance that he would be mistaken for an infiltrating Japanese and giving aid to the injured until he was himself seriously wounded in the legs by the explosion of a grenade. Rather than call another aid man for cover, he cared for his own injuries and waited 5 hours before litter bearers reached him and started carrying him to cover. The trio was caught in an enemy tank attack, and PFC Doss, seeing a more critically wounded man nearby, crawled off the litter and directed the bearers to give their first attention to the other man. Awaiting the litter bearers, I'm almost done, return, he was again struck, this time suffering a compound fracture in one arm. With magnificent fortitude, he bound a rifle stock to his shattered arm as a splint, and then crawled 300 yards over rough terrain to the aid station. Through his outstanding bravery and unflinching determination in the face of desperately dangerous conditions, PFC Doss saved the lives of many soldiers. His name became a symbol throughout the 77th Infantry Division for outstanding gallantry, far above and beyond the call of duty. Now, I think in the movie, they make his injury appear as though it happened on top of Hacksaw Ridge. Am I right? Yeah, they don't show it, but in all actuality, it takes place several weeks later down towards Shuri when we go. The only interesting thing I find out at a note here is they talk about a couple of times of people being 200 yards. And as you can see here, it's not 200 yards, you're going to fall off the back of this ridge. And it is actually pretty steep there. What I find interesting about this is how much wider it is than how much deeper it is. And so my guess is that they're coming up to the top and they're fighting in this direction and they're fighting down in this direction here.